please welcome to the stage, Kyle Reyes.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. I'm going down there. I hate being up here. Man.
You do your thing. I want to be around, baby.
All right, first of all, Arizona, you guys have some really cool belt buckles. I am a huge fan of those. So I came out here. I'm from the People's Republic of Connecticut, in case you guys didn't know that. I got taxed on the way out of the state. I'm sure I'll be taxed on the way back into the state. And today's speaking engagement is a little bit different from what I normally do. I want to make this a really interactive engagement. I brought along some videos. I've got a good friend of mine, Josh, who saved my butt on the technology side of things. He's a special agent. I'm apparently not allowed to tell you what agency he's with because we're recording. But, you know, what I want the takeaway today to be is that this is an event to honor law enforcement, right? But we have much bigger problems here in America. What I've learned over the last couple of days, being out here, taking a private tour of the border, meeting some incredible sheriffs, incredible people, is that Tucson is just sort of a microcosm of a much bigger problem that we have in America. It is the epicenter of everything that is going on, of so many of the controversies that we see with everything from undocumented migrants, is what we're being forced to say, right? All the way to sex trafficking, drugs. I mean, you guys have a lot of problems out here, but your problems are the problems of all of America. And that's a little bit about what I want to talk about today. So I've got Josh is going to bring up some slides for you. I want to start, who here, show of hands? First of all, I love the Make America Great Again hats. That makes me so happy. You don't see a lot of those in Connecticut. I fly with, let me tell you how I fly. I fly wearing my Make America Great Again hat, and I've got a gym tank top that says God, Guns, and Trump on it. And I tend to fly Southwest, and usually one of two things happens. Either A, I have an empty seat next to me for the entire flight, or B, I'm sitting with a friend, right? Because they see that hat, and either they walk right by or they sit next to you. So either way, I win. Art Del Cueto, show of hands, who knows who I'm talking about here? Did you guys know that Art wears Crocs? True story. Art wears camo Crocs. And man, I was breaking his spine over that for the last couple of days, and he was a little embarrassed about that. He said, you better not tell anybody about that. And I said, Art, I'm telling everybody about that. Because I asked Art, I said, Art, what do you guys need? Right? As Border Patrol agents, what do you need? And he said, we need our stories told, man. Because the media is portraying us in such a negative, aggressive light. We just want those stories told. And so Art's a dude who wears Crocs, and he likes Burt Reynolds, and he likes cheap Coors Light beer, and he's a man who loves his God and his country. And that is just about every single person in this room. Not necessarily a man who loves their God and their country, but incredible patriots. I want to tell you about a guy, Marlon. So, National Police Week takes place once a year in May in Washington, D.C. And we work very closely with an incredible organization called Concerns of Police Survivors. And Sherry, if you could just stand up for me for a second. Sherry's a very dear friend of mine. She's a survivor. And Sherry is one of the incredible people who helps shepherd fellow survivors through the journey of losing their officer. So we've worked with Concerns of Police Survivors for quite some time, and we got off that plane and we had so many logistics to worry about, right? I had to get my camera crews out there. We had events and meetings, and I sat down and I sort of forgot to prepare myself mentally for what I was coming into. And an hour after our plane touched down, I sat down with a husband and wife, their daughter, and their granddaughter, who was 5 years old. And they told me about their son, who was killed in the line of duty. And that 5-year-old girl told me through tears, I just wish that I could tell my uncle I love him one more time. Listen, I'm a Christian conservative patriot first. I'm a husband, I'm a father of 3 beautiful little girls, going to be 5, going to be 3, going to be 6 months old. Looking at that child and seeing what was taken away from her because we have failed to uphold law and order in America, because we have failed to respect our law enforcement officers, made me sick to my stomach. And I want to tell you about Marlon. So Marlon was this officer's dad. And Marlon really threw me for a loop, because I could tell right away that Marlon wasn't okay. He wasn't in a good spot. He had recently lost his son. And I said, Marlon, can you tell me a little bit about your officer? So he started telling me about his son, and he said, listen. He goes, I said, Marlon, how are you doing? He goes, this was all God. I said, listen, as a brother in faith, I'm with you, but we're filming this, and there are going to be a lot of people who have a hard time understanding, who can't see how this is the hand of God. So I said, can you tell me a little bit about that? And Marlon goes, yeah, my family isn't very well off. We don't have a lot of money, and we lived about 9 hours away from my son, and we hadn't seen our son in years. No problems in the family, just money. When you live in rural America and you don't have a lot of money, 9 hours can be a showstopper. And he said, we hadn't seen our son in years, and then a few weeks before my son was killed in the line of duty, our house burned to the ground. I said, you got to be kidding me. He goes, oh yeah, no, Kyle, that was God. So, Marlon, yeah, I got you, but you walk me through this journey, brother. He said, well, insurance hadn't kicked in yet, so we're staying in temporary housing. And while we're over in that temporary housing, I get bit by a brown recluse spider. I said, you got to be kidding me. He said, oh, Kyle, stop. That was God. I said, okay, Marlon, listen, keep walking me down this road, brother. He said, well, my leg, these spider bites, they're not good, man. He goes, and it's basically like a flesh-eating bacteria. And I was going to lose my leg. And I'm sitting there, just my mouth is open. He said, oh, that's God. Okay, Marlon, keep it going, brother. He said, the hospital couldn't take care of me. So they said they were going to have to send me to another hospital. You know where that other hospital was? 15 minutes away from his son. 3 days before his son was killed in the line of duty, his wife and Marlon got to spend an entire day with their son for the last time. That was God. These things don't happen by accident. That's Marlon's story. Over the next 4 days, I kept running into Marlon. There are 50,000 people who go to Police Week. I kept running into Marlon again and again, just at that moment where Marlon looked like he needed a brother. And to hold that man and cry with him and pray with him was an important reminder of why we do what we do at law enforcement today. I could go on and spend an entire day with you guys. I could tell you about my friend Susan Moody, who Susan is a survivor as well. She had to go home one day and tell her 1- and 3-year-old daughters that daddy was never coming home. I could tell you about all of my friends who are in law enforcement who have been shot. Houston, good friend of mine from Texas, took a 12-gauge shotgun blast to the face, survived to tell about it, got an opportunity after his shooter was convicted, was given 5 minutes to sit across from that shooter and have a conversation with him. And I said, Houston, there's a good chance I might have killed the guy. He said, Kyle, God. He goes, I sat there and I looked that man in the face and I said, there's a forgiveness in this room that only one being can give, and it's not you or I, it's God. Again and again and again, I've been blessed to hear these stories. And what's even more devastating in so many ways is that so many of these officers who have been shot or stabbed or run over in the line of duty, communities get together, right? The police chief comes out there and he says, Texas strong, hold the line, we stand behind you, we love you, brother, we're there for you. And then 3 days later, the media coverage dies off. And then 3 weeks later, all of a sudden, they're alone. They have their husband or their wife, maybe their kids there. The media's gone. The camaraderie is gone. The department's moved on. Now you're a little bit of a black sheep. It's uncomfortable. What do you say to that person? Benefits haven't kicked in yet. You can't work overtime. As a police officer in most communities, you're not exactly making a killing. So now how do you provide for your family? Now you're in pain. And pain meds start being taken away. And we are losing more and more incredible men and women to their own hand because we say, stay strong, we stand behind you. And we don't. We forget about them.